Alright, this is my first video for my new channel where I describe all of the awesome stuff that I do. I am a graphic designer, web developer. My name is Raj Gopal Das, and I've been doing this work for 25 plus years. I started out tinkering with computers when I was about 12 and got into video games and got into software, and somebody asked me if I could design a flyer for them, and they'd offered me $20, and I said, all right, sure, I'll figure it out. So I figured it out, and somebody saw the flyer I did and said, hey, could you make me a website? I'll give you $50. And I'm like, oh, cool, sure. So I figured it out, and I did that, and then I met some friends who were making videos and producing documentaries, and I decided that sounds really cool. Let me help out with you. And so then I learned a lot on the job there, and that's what got me kickstarted in my career. So I got to help with some really wonderful projects and made a lot of friends, got to travel the world and try to make an impact. So I'd like to share with you some of my process on how I get through my creative productions and how I try to be of impact and help others in their causes and businesses. So I don't know if you can see my screen here, but I have here this picture. This is a picture of Srila Prabhupada. He is the person who really impacted my life the greatest. My parents met him when they were in their 20s and became his disciples, like these other persons sitting here. And they dedicated their lives to serving God and to purifying themselves and to making a positive impact in the world by training everyone how to uncover their heart and how to love God in purity and in surrender. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to leave this body, and where you go is up to you and how you absorb yourself in your time. So I'm trying to choose how to use my time wisely so I stay absorbed in service to the Lord and service to others in a positive way, so that we can all return back to the spiritual world and love each other forever without any compromises. So although I can make money in many different ways, I choose to try to work for enterprises and individuals who align with my values, and that gives me greater fulfillment. Even though you can make a lot of money doing different things, it's just I can't bring myself to do it. My conscience is too strong. So this is my website. I'll bring it up here. Let's see here. I have a bunch of websites. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is I have a bit of a domain name addiction. I have so many ideas. I buy domain names. They're quick, cheap, and easy. And then I think, oh, I'll get around to doing that one day. And I haven't done that for decades. And costs add up. And I need to start having them make money so that they can do the work for the purposes for which I got them and make an impact and receive at least $10 a year to cover their cost. Maybe $20 a year now. They've raised prices. But my main website is here, designedbrilliant.com. I thought, well, God is ultimately a designer. There's creative design, and we're intelligently designed by one whose supreme intelligence has organized the universe and all of us. So in design, what you're trying to do is influence a person's feelings to help them make a better decision through visuals and words and audio and video and interactivity. So looking at this entry page here, I try to summarize all of that through using the sacred geometry measurements, through the Fibonacci formulas, and representing the inspiration which comes by connecting the creative right side of the brain with the analytical left side of the brain. Although it's much more complex and deep than that, that's a simple understanding of how the mind works. So creativity is infinite and vast, and structure is limiting and constraining, but adds strength and purpose and function. So that's what I try to do is combine both the creativity and the strategy. So that's what I try to do for myself, for my own enterprises, and for others. So some of the work I've done here, you'll see here that I start out the website with a picture of myself, my lovely wife, Leela Sarupani. that ultimately behind every project is a person, and behind the universe is a person, and he's the most attractive, beautiful person. And because of his beauty, we all have life, and that life is what makes us beautiful. And when that life is uncovered in purity, that makes our lives valuable and of merit. So I wanted to start it out with a picture of myself and my wife, because often I'll see design websites and other websites which are very impersonal. Technology in general is quite impersonal. So, but at the same time, the only reason we use technology is to connect with other persons. The largest platforms in technology are being used to connect us with each other. So I felt that starting out with a nice picture of ourselves so that you can see who you're dealing with and see that we have clean, bright energy fields, which means that that's the quality of energy you're going to get from the work that we do. That the quality of energy you consume determines the quality of energy you possess, which then determines the quality of energy you can put in or put out. And that's what people will receive and reciprocate with. So I really feel like having a very strong personal presence is really your brand. Because as we see today, it takes many, many years to build a reputation and only seconds to destroy it. So if you're out of integrity, then that will become known quickly and people will lose trust in you. And that trust is the most valuable thing. So trying to build trust in you as a person builds you as a company and helps people connect to you, because ultimately you're the face of your enterprise. There's two types of jobs. Either you work for somebody who's already done their marketing, or you do your own marketing. So I try to help both businesses with their marketing so that they can get themselves out there and find the people that resonate with them and help them to connect with your functions. So we tell a little bit about what we do, and then here's some of the amazing projects I've had the chance to work on. I'll quickly go over them. This is the Pulsator. It's a wonderful company based in California that has an ingenious invention which uses a very small amount of water, but uses a mechanical process to eject that water at high speed using these sprinkler heads which distribute it over a wide area. So what that enables you to do is to cover large areas of crops, particularly permanent crops like fruit trees or nuts, from damage by frost. So when the cold comes, the leaves and the flowers, which turn into fruit, they can become very brittle and they can become damaged by that frost or killed. So by coating it with water before it starts to freeze, the temperature of the water is greater than the ice. And so by constantly supplying it with fresh water, it's constantly having to refreeze, which then keeps whatever's inside of it above the freezing temperature and protected from damage. So this is a really powerful technology, and we're trying to help educate growers about it. There really hasn't been anything like it in the market, and so it's kind of an uphill battle to build awareness. But once people become aware, they're very grateful for the product, and so then word of mouth spreads. So it's just kind of what we're doing now is introducing this to the United States market. It's been quite successful in South America, as it had been adopted by some large, well-respected growers there, which then snowballed into a lot of installations around South America. And so now we're trying to introduce it to the United States, but it's been a bit of a challenge to try to figure out how to crack the nut of awareness. And so we've tried different paid ads, we've tried organic email blasts, we've tried cold call emails and phone calls. We've tried to arrange university studies, appeared in magazines, going to trade shows, so many different fronts. We're all just testing the waters to see how it goes, but it really all had to be built up from scratch. The company hadn't been well branded before, so we developed a new logo and developed photography of all the products, created a lot of promotional materials, developed their website, all that kind of fun stuff. So I'll do a full tour of that project another time. But the next project here is called the Chapman House Museum. This was a project which was brought to me by a friend who had met this lady who had inherited some money, and she had formerly worked for a university and was interested in botany. And she found this old house that she bought. She was charmed with the architecture and discovered that it had actually been the property of a famous botanist named Chapman, who had named a certain set of flowers, rhododendrons, in the state of Florida in the early 1800s. And so she was restoring this house to turn it into a museum and a botany center for studying plants and animals and flowers, and bring back traditional values and create a destination. She was in an area called Apalachicola, which had been hit by a hurricane and was in a financial depression, and so it had been a challenge in that area to get traffic back there. So she was seeing an opportunity by creating this venue to bring new traffic to town and to help rebuild the area. So while she had very lofty ideals with it, we spent a good period of time drafting this vision board here with all these ingredients, carefully crafted, meticulously, interactively with the client. Oftentimes I'll work by myself and I'll just use my creative skills. And sometimes, which is very fast and efficient, but sometimes I'll have a client who really has an artistic sense and they want a specific thing that just the way they want it, and they want to use me as their paintbrush. So I'll use my digital skills to achieve all the little things. So I spent countless hours sitting with the client and her assistant, tweaking every little minute detail on this poster. So it didn't go much beyond that because unfortunately she wasn't able to keep the property due to some financial and legal situations. So the project was put on hold. Maybe it will morph into something else, but it was a wonderful time had by all. They were very happy with the work that I did, and I was glad to work with them. So this company here is called Tensor Surgical. A friend of mine who I had been a brahmachari monk with many years ago had gone to medical engineering school and had partnered with a surgeon creating this device which allows for rotator cuff repair in surgery. So what it does is it allows you to attach your rotator cuff when it gets separated due to a fall or due to an accident or things like that. Very painful incident, but sometimes it happens with car accidents or sports injuries or elderly people primarily. And the tendon will get torn or cut. So what this does is it allows you to attach it back to the bone using just suture, where formerly it had become en vogue to use these bone screws, but they take a lot of space. They drill big holes in your bones, and they ultimately pull out when you get old and become less effective and become painful, and they're very expensive. So this is a very inexpensive method which allows for faster healing, less pain, stronger repairs, and it's cheaper. This takes a little more investment on the surgeon's behalf to learn the skill, but it's not too hard to learn. So we have a top surgeon in the country who advocated for this, and we spent a good number of years promoting that project until they brought in new management and took it from there. This bottom row here are some personal projects. On the left, you'll see Purely Prabhupada. Purely Prabhupada is a nonprofit organization which had been set up by my spiritual master, Srimati Kamra Devi Prabhu. She is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and she has been promoting Srila Prabhupada's original mood, mission, and teachings, preserving them for future generations, and continuing on the spiritual lineage from Srila Prabhupada by offering his pure teachings to another generation. So that's my great fortune to be able to serve under her and to carry this legacy onward. So we have a blog website where we have lots of articles, and we offer Srila Prabhupada's original books for sale. There's been a controversial situation within the organization which Srila Prabhupada founded, where the original purpose had been undermined by later management, which has inverted its original function and purpose. And so there's a diaspora of original followers all kind of spread throughout the world. And there's been a need for a cohesive solution to join everyone in purity. So this is our offering to the community of devotees to have a safe sangha of trustworthy devotees who are holding true to the original purpose and purity of the teachings that he came to give us. So in that light, we created this platform called Purify My Life. It was an inspiration I'd had of a quick and easy way to communicate what all of our offering is about. It's about purifying our lives and creating an opportunity for us to transcend the cycle of birth and death. As you'll see in this illustration on the cover image, there's the transmigration of the soul through the different species of life and within the human form of life, from birth, old age, disease, and death, and then rebirth, and how stepping out of that cycle requires us to enter into our eternal identity as a spirit soul, part and parcel of God. And in that light, we can see ourselves in our true value and then be able to recognize that value in everyone else. And from that perspective, we'll never be able to hurt or harm anyone. And in that way, we can achieve freedom from hypocrisy, and by being in integrity with God in our heart and allowing Him to clear out all of the shadows that we've been holding on to, then we become bright and shiny, and we become free from the ignorance which keeps us bound to birth and death. So to collect all of those who are interested, we created this educational platform called Purify My Life, the Complete Science of Spiritual Transformation, by which we offer all of the essential teachings of Krishna consciousness as taught by Srila Prabhupada in an easy to understand and follow way. We have over 80 videos we created, including songs and prayers and practices and the essence of the philosophy in a very easy to go through way. So I pray you take advantage of that, purifymylife.com. And then we have this platform called Awake Souls. I'm developing a social network for those who have taken to this process and who want to work together to help each other to be successful in raising our families, growing our communities, and continuing on the process of Krishna consciousness for many generations to come. People have been speaking about the golden age, and so Lord Chaitanya has brought that golden age. And so this is the platform to empower the golden age with the absolute truth. People speak about the truth. There's truth social. There's so many ideas about the truth. And they may be accurate according to relative vision, but unless we take to the absolute truth, there's always going to remain conflict. So just like you drop a stone in the water, if there's multiple centers, those ripples will conflict. So we try to keep everything centered on Krishna and His pleasure, and by His pleasure, everything is achieved. By pleasing our mind and our senses, then we'll always remain in competition and therefore conflict with each other. So when we all center our service on Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, we can become very peaceful and satisfied and work harmoniously and create a very beautiful community. So this is my attempt to build a physical community through first gathering all of us online and helping us to cooperate with each other and uplift and enlighten each other, and then eventually build physical communities all over the world, as Srila Prabhupada had intended for his original organization. So here's some of the work I've done. Here's an album cover I'd done for a group of friends of mine called the Mayapuris. I did their music album called Mridanga. They had a nice photo shoot they had done, and this was a nice painting which was in our offices in Potomac, Maryland. You'll see here on my background, here's a picture of Srila Prabhupada seated in this room here. This is in the temple in Potomac, Maryland, near Washington, D.C. And I had the great opportunity to work in this room. This was Srila Prabhupada's quarters in a small farmhouse at the top of a hill. It had formerly been, this property had been a summer camp, and it had been purchased by the devotees and turned into a temple. So I got to live there for some years and work with lots of wonderful devotees and learned all these media arts. And I got to sit right where Srila Prabhupada's desk was. I had a desk right there, and I'd face the wall and work on these websites and videos and pray to Srila Prabhupada to please be empowered to be able to make the impact he wanted to see in the world and to be of service to him. And so this is my aspiration with these projects. So with this, I was trying to communicate the transcendental dimension of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda and the Sankirtan movement of chanting the holy names of the Lord to purify our hearts and uplift us, and brought through time to the modern era to uplift the dark mechanistic world of sense gratification, which is happening here in this cityscape. This was a gentleman named Mike Mincy. He had done some work on our land, and in reciprocation, he offered us some additional work, and I offered to do some promotional elements for him. In exchange, it was very nice. He was a very pious person. He was happy to receive our books about Krishna consciousness, and he had served in the Iraq War and had seen a lot of trouble, and so he was trying his best to give back to humanity, and I really appreciated his offering. So I got to create this nice poster for him and advocate his work for others so that he could get some more business and gain a bigger impact. This was for my surgical friend. He had a company for doing shoulder surgeries. This was his first project out of college, doing this mechanical device. It's called a beach chair positioner and an arm positioner. And what it does is it holds the patient still so that they can operate on the shoulder. Previous technologies had been very clumsy, very cumbersome, and didn't work very well. So this was an advancement in the technology. So I worked for him for a number of years, and it was very nice to have that opportunity. Eventually, they sold their company to a larger company, and he's gotten himself, set up with that. So I was glad to be of assistance for those years. It helped me grow my career. The next one here is a cover for a book draft. There was a beautiful devotee named Yamuna, who was one of Srila Prabhupada's first disciples. She was an amazing devotee who had deep love for Krishna and was an amazing singer and artist. She sang on this beautiful album. She made friends with George Harrison and the Beatles, along with Guru Das and Shyam Sundar and Malati and different devotees who had been to England to give Krishna consciousness to the world. And so they thought, well, the best people would be, let's give them to the Beatles. And if they appreciate it, then everybody else will appreciate it. So they prayed to Krishna, and Krishna empowered them. And Srila Prabhupada's desire to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world brought about miracle after miracle, which, brought them into relationships in an honest way. Because, like when you have money, you can see who's honest and who's not honest, because you can see who's after you for what you got. So the devotees were so guileless, they were so sincere and so loving that they impressed, especially George Harrison, who took to Krishna consciousness very seriously. And he helped produce an album called the Radha Krishna Temple, which still is played every day in the temples all around the world. Srila Prabhupada said that this song, Govinda, which they recorded, which Yamuna sings on, as the daily prayer that we sing every morning when we see the deities first thing in the morning at 7. So she sings this beautiful song, and George Harrison produced it. Ringo plays drums on it, and George plays guitar, and the devotees all sang so beautifully and prayed to the Lord. And so there's so many amazing stories that she told. I got to meet her a number of times and stayed near her house and got to eat some of her famous cooking. She was an amazing chef. So they had asked me to do a draft for the cover of her book after her passing. And this is my first draft I'd done for them. They ultimately chose a different design, but I felt that this design was so beautiful and magical that I would keep it on my portfolio. Behind her, you'll see here is Govinda Dasi. She's also a dear friend of mine. I've done book covers for her, which you'll see shortly. This is a poster I'd done while staying in Italy. A good friend of mine had passed away in an automobile accident with a couple other friends, and it was very tragic. But I'd got to go to India for their last rites, and we put their ashes in the Ganga. And on my way back, a friend sponsored me to stop over in Italy at the temple there in Villa Vrindavan. And so I took these photos of that peacock which lives there in this beautiful palace that had been bought by the devotees to turn into a temple. And so I took these pictures as for helping a young boy there whose name I believe is Baladev. And he was organizing a youth retreat. He wanted to invite all the devotees from around the world, especially in Europe, to come spend time together and to build relationships and increase their Krishna consciousness. So I made this beautiful poster for him. I'm not sure how the event went, but that was the time I spent there, just recuperating and reflecting on life and appreciating all that I've been given in my life. This is an album I had done for a devotee named Mikey J. He had it called Sri Ishopanishad. This was a mock-up of a street art piece. I'd pieced these together in Photoshop and extended the wall and put them on the wall so it looks like it's an authentic street art installation. He had provided the artwork of Lord Vishnu, which had been taken from an original painting from Srila Prabhupada's books. This original was done by an artist named Jadurani. And so then he had a street art version of it made, and then I added in the devotees. This is Harinam Ruchi and his crew. I spent a good period of time with them, chanting and dancing around India. They were always so full of bliss, and I love their energy, so it was really great to be able to help him with this album. This is an album for a devotee named Javi, otherwise known as Elon Chester. He's quite famous in Venezuela, where he's from, in the secular field, but he is also a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. I met him while I was in India, and he had let me listen to the first recording of his Symphony of the Soul, which was a production he had put together with a choir and an orchestra in South America, singing the Vaishnava songs, which was very well produced. So I created this visual analogy of the upliftment of the soul. So this tilak is the symbol of a Vaishnava. It represents the heel of Lord Vishnu, the footprint of Lord Vishnu, with the tulsi leaf, which represents the servant, the devotee who's always serving the Lord, just as the leaves of tulsi are always on the feet of the Lord in service. So similarly, the devotee is always connected with the Lord. So by connecting with the Lord, we are uplifted from the clouds of material illusion. And from the highest planet to the lowest, all are places of birth and death wherein suffering takes place. But when we come into the association of devotees and service, then our life becomes full of color, full of flavor, full of rasa, and we're elevated to the light out of the darkness. So that was the visual analogy I put together. It was actually well appreciated by people in the music industry, and it wasn't ultimately the cover that he chose. He chose a different cover, but I chose that this design I felt was the superior artistic expression. This is a piece I had produced for Kamra Devi Dasi's podcast, Reality Distinguished from Illusion. I had put it together for our website, purelyprabhupada.org. I'd colored Srila Prabhupada standing under this tree. He had stood alone under this tree and preached Krishna consciousness, and Brahmananda came, other devotees came, and they took it up seriously and started this Hare Krishna movement in the West, and did so much work which made my life possible. My wife's father also had met Srila Prabhupada at this time while he was in this park chanting. And he never took formal initiation, but he took up the process as best he could and gave her what he could of the philosophy. And so she grew up with a taste for Krishna, and which later has become fruitful with our beautiful offerings and service to our spiritual master and our family. So this is the Purify My Life scene. I added a play button for the video. We made a nice animation with this together. You can see that when you click on our website, purifymylife.com. Here is a larger view of the header graphic I created. I love to create these things. I took this beautiful picture of Radha and Krishna from the cover of Krishna Book, which George Harrison sponsored. And I took a picture of a book, and I put the text from the Krishna Book on the pages. I took this beautiful background from a doorway in Jaipur. I used some jewelry to create this winged arch and this brooch of Lord Nrsingadev. this silk with sparkles of stars. I added these beautiful shining effulgence behind the lordships and nice gold lettering to communicate the value. I see that most design these days is devoid of value and aesthetics. So, there's a brutalist style of architecture, and similarly, there's a minimalist Zen style of design, which is in vogue on the technology front, but it's antithetical to the human spirit. So I try to go the opposite direction and put as much detail into it. If you look at God's style design, how he designs things, it's infinitely complex and infinitely detailed, yet simple. So when you look at nature, you think, oh, it's just nature. But you look at every facet of it, it's infinitely detailed. So there's a homogeneous simplicity, yet there's a simultaneous infinite complexity. And that's what draws in interest and satisfies the nature of the soul. So that's what I strive for in my designs, is to create that completeness, which gives satisfaction, which builds trust and merit. Here's a brochure I'd done for the temple of in New Vrindavan. It's called the Palace of Gold. I grew up near here, and I was staying there for many years. And they wanted a brochure to invite people to come there, so I designed this very nicely. I tried to capture the essence of my experience of Krishna consciousness with all of the transcendental personalities who you develop relationships with as you read Srila Prabhupada's books, and the beautiful architecture and design, and the gardens and the cows and the personalities who you would meet while coming there. Ultimately, that community has had many struggles because of nefarious personalities taking advantage of people's good faith and cheating them. So it's still ongoing. It's a very unfortunate situation. I wasn't able to stay there, but I see that there were many sincere devotees who gave their best, and to honor that, I keep this as part of my portfolio. This was a logo for a devotees company. I thought it was a striking logo. It looked really nice. I try to keep as much in my portfolio that can relate to clients wherever they're at. So some of my clients, they don't understand the Krishna consciousness culture. And so I try to keep things in my portfolio which reflect more common design aesthetics. But this, I felt, communicates the loudness, the sound wave, and it also hints at Lord Nrsimhadev, the form of the Lord who has the head of a lion, because there's a circle like an effulgence around this lion. So it was a nice project. This was a vehicle I had designed for the festival called Burning Man. I had been there for many years, distributing Krishna Prasadam and chanting the holy names and distributing Prabhupada's books and making a positive impact to try to introduce Krishna consciousness into the counterculture. I thought, well, wouldn't that be nice to have a vehicle that looked like a tilak, has a tilak over the top, and a lotus, and a swan at the same time, and it kind of combines all those elements. So I took a motorcycle frame and extended it with these tires, and I was just doing a 3D modeling experiment, but it turned out quite nicely. So ultimately, I'd like to make one of these someday, but in the meantime, it'll stay as a beautiful vision. This is a poster I'd made for an event in Mayapur called Kirtan Mela. It had been organized by a friend of mine, Yasomati. I was friends with her kids. And so she invited me to design the logo for this event, which would be forevermore as they continued on this track. So I designed this based off of a photograph of a symbol, which had been initially used by the governor of the province of Bengal called Chand Kazi. He was a historical personality who had been in the cabinet of Nawab Hussain Shah, who was a Muslim ruler there at the time of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya had been practicing Krishna consciousness in private, but the people were complaining that the devotees were too loud chanting Hare Krishna inside. They would keep them up all night and they would complain. So then Lord Chaitanya instructed the devotees to go out in the street and chant in public and invite everyone to chant the holy names of the Lord, which was controversial at the time because the Brahminical class was trying to keep a monopoly on spiritual life. And so they didn't want everyone to be able to know the mantras and to be able to become purified. They wanted them to have to pay the brahmanas and, go through them in order to find their spiritual salvation. So there's a lot of religionist people who still say, unless you go through us, you can't get to God. And so Lord Chaitanya is giving a direct connection to God through the power of his holy names. And so this was controversial at the time. So the people were complaining. So they went to the governor and said, hey, Lord Chaitanya's, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is causing a disturbance. He's going to upend our whole society. You have to do something about it. So the Qazi went and tried to stop the kirtan, and he ended up committing a great offense. He broke one of the drums, the clay mridanga drums. You'll see here in the center is this circle, which is actually a photo of the head of a mridanga drum. So when he broke that drum, Lord Chaitanya came out and danced in public and assembled everyone in the town, and all the demigods assembled, and they assumed the form of villagers, and they all went to the house of the Chand Qazi in protest, nonviolent civil disobedience movement, and which later was copied by Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King and others. So Lord Chaitanya set the example. He says, we don't come to kill the demons, we come to deliver them through spiritual upliftment and education. And so he spoke to the Qazi and transformed his heart, and he became a great devotee. And so he had given his symbol, which was this circle with the two circles cut out, to the Sankirtan party of Lord Chaitanya to carry with them so that no one would obstruct their chanting, because they would have the official sigil of the governor. Because, wherever the governor would go on his palanquin, there would be pallbearers who would carry his sigil ahead of, and everybody would make way knowing this is an official personality. And so he gave it to the devotees, and they put a tilak on it. So this was in honor of that event of Lord Chaitanya's conquering of Western civilization. This process of carrying these sigils was adapted by the Mughals from the Romans. And so this was a very ancient practice. And so that original item still exists. And so I took a photo of that, and I based this off of that design. And here's the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the Bengali script, in the Roman numeral script, or English Latin script. And here's it in Sanskrit, and then Russian, and then Arabic, Chinese. So all around the world, people can chant the holy name of Krishna and take full advantage of this spiritual empowerment platform. So here's the website header for my sister, Jwalamukhi. She is an amazing personality who has gone through so much and held firm to the service of the Lord, trying to serve Srila Prabhupada. And so I created this header for her website and for her book. I created this animation, which you can see later if you go to my website, Design Brilliant. So here's the cover for the book for Govindadasi. Beautiful memoirs of her time with Srila Prabhupada in the early days of the movement. It's a very important read. I highly recommend it to everyone. This is a podcast cover for Harinam Chintamani, Dear Disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Highly recommend you check that out on purelyprabhupada.org. Here's a cover I've done for a Following Srila Prabhupada series. This is a DVD series taking all of the video footage of Srila Prabhupada in chronological order from 1966 to 1977. So I had the opportunity to help with producing the branding. I came up with the title, Following Srila Prabhupada, a chronological series, and helped develop all the title animations and the DVD screens and this cover artwork. It was very nice. Yadu Bar and Vishaka Prabhu had produced this, and I got to serve them doing that. This is a poster I'd done for Lord Nityananda. His lotus feet are so soft and transcendental. I had a beautiful dream where I got to touch his lotus feet, get his blessings, and so I tried to recreate that in this poster so you can feel the transcendental mercy of Lord Nityananda. And here's a beautiful description of the markings on his lotus feet and what they mean. This was translated by Dasara Sutta Prabhu, who's a great devotee, lives nearby. So I had gotten this as a gift, this brochure, and so I'd use this as an inspiration for creating the poster. So I've created posters like this, which you can purchase and keep in your home and meditate on the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda and receive his mercy and become ecstatic. And this was for a dear devotee. Her name's Anapayani. She has a dance school called the Bhakti Kalalayam Dance Academy. So I created this as the opening page for their website. This is a signboard I had done for a vegetarian restaurant, Govinda's Restaurant with Prasadam. It's offered to Krishna with love. I had designed and oversaw the fabrication of this sign for this restaurant in India. This is a poster I'd done for a devotee named Punyatama. He was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he had a great vision of having big concerts where everyone became devotees of Krishna, and he wanted to promote these bands to gather everyone in music. This is for the temple in Detroit where I grew up. And these beautiful deities are Radha Kunj Bihari, and they had I grew up with them, and I love them very much, and they set my aesthetic sense, and I wanted to offer something to them, so I created this invitation card to the temple there. This was for a project I'd done for a client who had wanted to start a touring company in India to take kids all over the region to expand their horizons using Vedic stories for morals and knowing how to practice Vedic principles in their lives. So that was a wonderful project. This is another one of Punyatama's projects. He wanted to gather everyone from all the world's nations and traditions and gather them in prayer, uniting everyone with the holy name of the Lord. This is the first design I'd ever done for Avatar Studios. This is for Gauravani's album called As Kindred Spirits. This is a palm leaf etching, which I had processed to bring out the gold color. It was quite nice. I added the title on there. This is an art piece based off of a quote from Srila Prabhupada from a beautiful letter. This is at Burning Man. This is a friend of mine, Jai Jagannath, and our beautiful deity of Lord Jagannath. And we have an intimate relationship of service with him. It's so beautiful. So I wanted to share that feeling with everyone. This was part of an art exhibition that has been traveling around Burning Man for many years. This is our camp at Burning Man. We built this temple. We had this beautiful Rath Yatra cart. We had a nighttime Rath Yatra with lights inside. And we chanted and danced and distributed prasadam, and the Lord oversaw many miracles. I'd love to tell you all the stories about that. This is the temple in Detroit where I grew up. It was a beautiful palace. All these beautiful gardens. My parents helped make these sculptures of the Dasa Avatar, the 10 incarnations of Krishna. And there's a museum inside with many dioramas. Here's a picture of the main dioramas of Radha and Krishna. So they really instilled within me my sense of aesthetics and taste and love for Krishna. This was a poster for the 24-hour Kirtan Festival in New Vrindavan, showing the night and the day. This is for an album company I have called Mantra Works. So Mantra Works is a music album for producing kirtan and also promoting how the mantra works to purify your life. This is a poster for a drama my older sister started, my younger sister directed. It's written by George Bernard Shaw. He was a famous author, and he had written a drama about Joan of Arc, showing how simple spiritual life is misunderstood and controlled by religionists who miss the whole point, and how simplicity and sincerity empowers you. And so that was a wonderful drama. You can watch that on YouTube. It's got many views. Highly recommend it. This is the logo I'd done for my friend's surgical company, Quantum Ops. I'd incorporated a surgical knife with the logo. And because it's a surgical steel, we use this nice aluminum and carbon fiber, which are the materials that the product is made from. Give it a nice high-end look. These are 3D models of the deities of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. We had at our Burning Man camp. I had simplified them for 3D printing. Since they only had black and red, I simplified their design to be like this, and so it turned out quite nice. And they looked quite amazing. I loved them very much. So I'd love to increase their exposure around the world. This is an album my mother had produced when we were kids. She's an amazing musician and written many children's songs about Krishna, which instilled within us the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So here's myself in the middle, the missing tooth, my older sister Jahnavi, who's now Jwalamukhi, my younger sister Krishna, and my older brother Markanda. So there's many beautiful songs there. I highly recommend you take advantage of it. Little Vaishnava songs. They're on YouTube. Website just now coming. This is the menu for that Govinda's restaurant. I tried to make it beautiful and opulent. Show how Krishna protects cows and distributes prasadam. And so here's different versions of the previous materials you'd seen. The posters. This is a nice thing showing Jesus and Krishna. There's a nice quote that predicted Srila Prabhupada. He says, "I have yet many things to say unto you, but you cannot bear to hear them now. Howbeit when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. For he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that shall he speak. And he will show you things to come. He shall glorify me, for he shall receive of mine, and shall show it unto you. All things that the Father hath are mine. Therefore said I, that he shall take of mine, and shall show it unto you. And a little while, and you will not see me, and again a little while, and you will see me, because I go to the Father." So in that way, he's predicting Srila Prabhupada, who spoke not on his own behalf, but on behalf of the parampara, the spiritual lineage. And he spoke on behalf of the Lord's instructions, and he gave everything that Jesus wanted to give, but the people at that time could not bear to hear. So I made this poster. Can you bear to hear now? Are you ready to hear now? The world is in need of this knowledge, and so Srila Prabhupada came to give this knowledge. And there's no conflict between Krishna and Christ, but the dogmatic religionists will have you believe otherwise. So I invite you to please take full advantage of this transcendental science and to taste the love of God, which Krishna has come to give through the lineage of pure devotees. So that covers my portfolio. You can watch the videos on my website, designbrilliant.com. If you ever need any help with any projects, here's my number and my email address. I'd love to help you with your projects and help you succeed and be empowered and impactful in the world. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.